Hey guys, I had this prophetic dream at some point in the last 7 nights, with things being as chaotic as they am. I'm still dealing with a toxic, violent family situation. It's still moving around a lot. It's hard for me to get exact dates, but yeah, I had this dream at some point in the last 7 nights. This one was actually very long, and there was a lot of detail. I could talk about it for all the details for at least an hour. So I'll just talk about part of the dream here. I'll just get in straight into it. So here we go. Please refer to the disclaimer in the description box below if you've not already done so. Here we go. So in this dream, I was dreaming about some other things. Then scene changed. All of a sudden, it's different. And yeah, the Holy Spirit started showing me things about the coming war from God. The first thing I was shown is that after the invasion of Taiwan, everything will change. There's going to be, getting chills now. So what I was shown is, in the dream, the invasion of Taiwan had just taken place. This information was given to me. And then a screen came up in front of me. The rough ratio, if I had to guess, was, so imagine a television screen in front of you, but it's divided up into many smaller television screens. There were about five high. It was about 5 by 7. So five screens high by 7 across, so 35 screens in total. I started to see the screens come on at different points, and I saw news anchors, Western news anchors. And then I saw scenes in the background of explosions and of combat and warfare. And what I was being shown is Chinese attacks and assaults all over the planet, literally all over the planet. And the symbolism of the stream is that once World War III really kicks into high gear, and as I've been over in previous videos, the Holy Spirit has shown me more than once that World War III will become official, just like World War II became official with the German invasion of Poland when China invades Taiwan. And who knows? I could be wrong, but that's what I've been shown. We'll see. And then I was shown after that, it's just going to be game on. For those of you who don't know, China has undergone the biggest military buildup in recorded history in the last 5,000 years. And bro, they're not doing it for parades. They're getting ready to take over the world. And I'm not kidding. They're going to be invading countries all over the planet. So this really is going to be world war. I mean, they're going to be sending troops to fight in Europe. They're going to be taking over islands in the Pacific. Later I'll be shown they're going to attack and invade New Zealand and Australia. And the next part of the stream, what I was shown was it switched, and I was shown Baghdad, and I was shown a huge Chinese tank roaring out of collapsed buildings and rubble. And the symbolism is that the Chinese army is enormous and very strong, and not only we all know that their numbers are large. What's not publicly known much, and something that many of us have been shown in prophetic dreams, is that they have extremely advanced technology which they've kept secret. I've had a few dreams about that. It's not just the Russians, but never mind the fact that Russia and China have a quote no limits agreement to their respective militaries. So Russia will be sharing a lot of their advanced technology with China. For example, yeah, and they're doing deals. For example, right now, China is, in exchange for advanced Russian technology, China is helping Russia with manufacturing capacity so that they can produce more tanks. So they're really going to be working together closely. But yeah, I was shown this tank erupting, surging, like on full power. It was like it came out of this ruined building, this busted down, broken down, smashed up concrete shell of what used to be a large building in a city. It looked like something out of the Gaza Strip, in the places where it's just been bombed, or cities in Germany that were heavily bombed in World War II, like Dresden. And it was just roaring ahead. And the symbolism is that there will be these attacks all over the world, but at least one of the attacks, and the major attacks, is going to be in the Middle East, and China is going to attack and invade and occupy at least one country in the Gulf state, in the Arab part of the world, and that they're going to attack, invade, and occupy this country for its oil. And I was shown, the analogy was, there's also some symbolism here, because Iraq, of course, the US did that with Operation Enduring Freedom, liberating the souls of Iraqi people from their bodies by killing them. which is it's a sick joke, you know. It's like, I mean, that war was all corruption, you know. When they went into Iraq in 2003, it was, you know, they were going after. There were no weapons of mass destruction. They had actually sold weapons of potentially mass destruction to the Iraqis in the past, and they knew they had them because the US had the receipts. I mean, not Americans, but corrupt people in the American military-industrial complex had the receipts. I don't think, you know, a lot of people didn't support that war, but 9/11, which if you look into it, it was incredibly suspicious. It was like, it's a separate topic. I don't really. Building 7 just fell over by itself. Don't even get me started. The point is, regardless of why 9/11 happened, it was used deliberately by satanic elites in the US using advanced psychological warfare and knowledge of human psychology to get everyone pumped up on bloodlust and control them with their emotions and get the American public unified behind wars which had nothing to even do with it. It didn't make sense. You know, the hijackers allegedly were, you know, well, the hijackers of the planes were Pakistanis and Saudis, Saudi Arabians. So what do? We go and we invade Afghanistan and Iraq, and then, you know, it's like just one lie after logical fallacy after one lie after logical fallacy. It's all corruption, and, you know, it was basically all about going in there to get the oil. I'll put a link. There's a video, General Wesley Clark, I think, talking in the early 90s. He was talking to some guy high up in the military who said, you know, we're going to do something like 7 countries in 5 years. You know, Iraq, Libya, it was like Syria, and the last one was Iran. And he found out about this corrupt plan, and it's all just corruption. I mean, they went into Iraq. The American military went into Iraq. You know, it wasn't about democracy. It's all, come on, it was all bullshit. It was about oil and, you know, profits for the military-industrial complex. They made profits when they destroyed that country. They made profits when they rebuilt it. They made profits supplying the military. Yeah, companies like Halliburton. So it's just all corruption. There's that saying, all wars are bankers' wars. And, well, the US did that when they had the power and the means to do it. And what I got shown in this stream is that very soon what's going to happen is that China's military will actually be at parity level with that of the United States. Almost certainly much more powerful than that of the US, actually. And when they're in that position, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to do just what the US did. That's what the Dream was saying. The surging Chinese tank represented their new military power, and the fact that it was in Baghdad. So I'm not sure if it will be Iraq, but yeah, the symbolism is that one of these many attacks that we'll see globally as China starts to conquer countries all over the planet will be in the Middle East. They're going to take one of these countries and they're going to take it to secure a steady oil supply for their war machine. And I'll put a link to a dream. Katie Humphries from the channel of Voice to a Nations was specifically shown in a dream by God, and she's had multiple dreams fulfilled, by the way. She's also here in New Zealand. She's in Blenheim at the top of the South Island, that China's going to invade Saudi Arabia, which I wouldn't be surprised about. So, you know, it could be, maybe it was Iraq. God was showing me symbolically via the Holy Spirit that it was just it'll be one of the countries in the Gulf region which produces a lot of oil. It won't be Iran, because China and Iran are allies. But, you know, like, a lot of the leaders of these Arab countries are completely corrupt. They're not, you know, they don't represent their people. Most of their people want these other Arab states to help the Palestinians, but the leaders have no morals and values, so they're sold out, they're just bought, and they've been bought by Israeli and American politicians. This is how they're controlled. Like Saudi Arabia, that's the case. That's the case with Jordan. I mean, something like 30 or 40% of Jordan's population is Palestinians, but they're just like Israel's lapdog and the US's lapdog. It's because Israel and the US just control their leaders. So their leaders are sold out, right? And they're not protecting their people. And they've sold out to the people with the most money. And this is what happens when you're godless and you have no values. It's all good being corrupt when everyone else is corrupt and things are going your way, but when the winds start to change, you know, is that saying, there's no honor among thieves? What happens when Israel and the US go down and the people that were, you know, paying off these Arab leaders are gone? Well, they're kind of like they don't have long-standing allegiances to any other regional power like Iran. So they're just up for grabs, you know? They don't have a history of like working with established powers like Iran, so the Axis powers aren't going to, put it this way, there are countries that have been working, have a historical relationship with countries like Russia and China, and are working with them, and they're like, right, we're friends, we're allies, we're going to work together. Obviously, Russia and China aren't going to invade them because on some level, they've made agreements based on some values or principles. We're going to protect these people, or we share these values, even if they're not so good. The values aren't great. But if you're just totally corrupt, and you're just like, yeah, I'll sell my country to the highest bidder, well, that's all good when the people you're being sold to are in power, but when they get taken out, it's like in the Cold War, in the Cold War between Russia and the United States, the developing world, there was just endless proxy wars as the US and the Soviet Union were fighting for control of those countries. And it's like, yeah, once the US and Israel go down, it's like, dude, you don't have any friends to protect you, and you've got tons of oil. It's a kind of fait accompli is the phrase that comes to mind. I might have to check myself and correct that in the description box below, but you're kind of you've screwed yourself. So yeah, I got shown. That's one of the parts of the stream. That's what I was showing. It makes perfect sense, right? China has this huge military, dude. They're going to need to secure oil supplies for their war machine. Look at World War II. In the Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, there was Army Group Center, Army Group North, Army Group South. Army Group South, target was Stalingrad. Army Group Center, Moscow. Army Group North was Leningrad, St. Petersburg. The main objective of Army Group South was actually to secure the oil fields on the edge of the Caspian Sea around Azerbaijan. Because Germany wanted to secure, a supply of ample oil to fuel their war machine. You've got all these thousands of warplanes, Stukas, Focke-Wulfs, Me-109s, Panzers, later Tiger tanks. They all need oil to run. That became a real problem for Germany later in the war. They actually had to set up synthetic petroleum plants in Germany to produce synthetic oil because they hadn't secured enough natural sources. And it was the same in the Pacific. The Japanese, when they began their imperial campaigns of conquests, some of the areas they targeted because they were producing oil, and they wanted to lock that down so they could supply their war machine. I mean, China's, they've got an enormous war machine. It makes perfect sense that they would do this. So yeah, once the invasion of Taiwan kicks off, it's all bets are off, and like as I said, this is the largest recorded military build-up in recorded history. It's not for parades. It's for a purpose, and we're going to see it being used, and it's going to be shocking, and it's going to be. They're just going to do, in many cases, what the US did back in the early 2000s. And to be clear, I'm not pointing the finger at the US or China or any country. These are just effectively the dynamics of collective ego, which is what imperialism is. It's dog eat dog. In game theory, it's win-lose, which is really, in the end, it's just, there is no win-lose. It's just lose-lose. There are no winners ultimately in war. The enlightened paradigm is win-win. We stop, dog eat dog, the pecking order, operative word pecking, animals. As humans, we're supposed to have open hearts, godly, Christ-like Christian values, and treat each other as equals, and we're supposed to help each other. And, we shouldn't try and oppress and exploit each other. We should share and, help one another. That's the new enlightened paradigm. But we're not there yet, and this is the world we live in. So, yeah, once China gets going and they've got all this power, they're just going to do what the US did back in the 2000s. And again, I'm not pointing the finger at the US or China. This is just what countries do when they're at that level of consciousness collectively. It's it's the game of empire. The entire planet is playing it. But I will say it's probably going to be a shock for our countries and I'll get to that in the next part of the stream that I'll talk about. It's going to be a real shock for us when we're not on top anymore, and all of a sudden we're the terrorists. We are the terrorists. And what do I mean by that, dude? When the Americans, the Australians, the Kiwis, we all put troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, we're fighting, quote, terrorists. They were referred to as terrorists, the people who are fighting to defend their countries. and get our troops out of there. We called them terrorists and we tortured them and hunted them down. And we said, like, it was such bullshit. I had a friend, former New Zealand military officer, he fell for the CIA programming, like, oh, we invaded Afghanistan, it was about women's rights. Are you freaking kidding me? And he's talking about, oh, they treat their women terribly. Like, how arrogant do you have to be? Oh, we have the right to come and invade your country and tell you what to do. This is a real problem with the Anglo-Saxon countries, that kind of arrogance. Like, who are we to go in and tell these people how to live their lives and how to rule their country? Why do you think the armies in the Afghanistan collapsed so fast? It's because no one had, they were just paid off by the US, the like coalition, the locally trained Afghan forces to fight for the Americans. They had no loyalty to them. They were just doing it for the money. That's why they collapsed so quickly, and that's why the Taliban got control of Afghanistan back so fast. Like, it was, we dressed it up like it's about freedom and democracy. It's all bullshit. It was all about just securing resources. It's just imperialism. And my gullible New Zealand officer friend who fell for the CIA programming, it's not surprising given him he's in the military. I mean, they really break them down, and there's not much room for an open mind if you're deep in the military. But yeah, we weren't there to help. And then, yeah, we're killing and brutally torturing the people who dare to have the frickin' temerity. How dare you fight back? How dare you fight back after we occupy your country, bomb your cities, rape your women, murder your civilians? How dare you fight back? You're terrorists. You're terrorists. I was reading a book yesterday. You know what book it was? It was called Arnhem, The Battle of the Bridges by Anthony Beevor, British contemporary historian. Do you know what the Nazis referred to the Dutch resistance members as in World War II? They called them terrorists, okay? So the Nazis referred to people in European countries that they occupied, like France, like Poland, like the Netherlands, as terrorists. So they were just freedom fighters. And I mean, it's going to be a very different experience when we're the quote terrorists. I just wish less people would be more people would be less apathetic about the global dynamics of these geopolitical kind of cosmic mystery play that we're living on Earth. I mean, people don't think it affects them just because they're not in the military. It's like, no, you're part of that collective consciousness. You're part of that country. That country has karma. That you're like, come out of her, my people, lest you partake in, what is it? The wages of her sin. It's saying in the Bible, like, if you're a good person and you're living in a country which has been running around conquering other countries and doing terrible things, you need to leave, because it doesn't matter if you were involved or not. That country now has a debt to pay off. And, the barbarians are coming. People think, oh, well, I'm not in the military, it doesn't really affect me. No. It will, because it doesn't matter if you were in the military or not. Your country did these things, and your country is going to have to pay off the debt. And it doesn't matter if you weren't fighting the military. You're still going to be potentially, getting put in a concentration camp and shot when we get invaded. I'll leave that for the next video. It's the next part. But in summary, just after Taiwan attacks all over the planet by the Chinese military, they'll be conquering many countries. It will barely be able to keep up. And they're going to, just one of them will be a oil-producing country in the Middle East, and that will be done for strategic reasons, just like the US did. And that was partly why God used that symbolism of the tank in Baghdad, because it was saying, like, that's the Americans, the US did that. One of the main reasons was to secure oil, and the Chinese will be making this conquest in the same area for the same reasons. All right, thanks. And I'll talk about other parts of the dream in a couple of other videos. I'll do another short one after this.